We running? Yo! Haha! Facebook, Instagram, hello! Give us a second, we're just going to get our technical stuff rolling. Yes, I can see us on camera, so let me get it on the screen. We are on. Jeff Robinson is watching you. Jeff, hello, how are you doing? Today is all about brakes. I'll give you guys a second to come on, and then we will talk about brakes. We've got how to check your brakes to see if you get new ones, how to actually stop when you press the pedal, and also how to extend the life of your brakes. And today I have the incredible Figaro expert Matt as my co-presenter, which is exciting because I've been doing this by myself the last few weeks. Just give you guys a second to arrive and then we will get stuck in. Oh, give me a thumbs up so I know we can hear you guys. And if you can hear us on Instagram, that would be good as well. Is it cold wherever you are? It's freezing here. I live by the river and the river is actually frozen today, which it has done once in my time. Alexi, hello. Paul Caruso, hello. The Masked Mechanics, yeah, exactly. Philip Parsons, hi. Oh, I got some thumbs up to let me know I can hear you guys. Okay, I'm going to give it another couple of minutes just for wait for people to join. Today, the things we're going to go through are all things you can do at home. The Figaro brake system is pretty dated and there's a lot of things that can seize up and go wrong on it, so hopefully this is going to be really useful for you guys. Oh, I feel like I should hop to keep warm while we wait. I have to put my gloves on and off. Alright, let's get going in a second then. So, on the, we've got three main points to cover. The first one is how to check whether you need new brakes. So to summarise it really briefly, on the front of the Figaro you've got what's called disc brakes, and on the back you've got what's called drum brakes. They're reasonably simple, they haven't got all the modern features like an ABS system and stuff like that, and they have a real tendency of sticking and going wrong. So if you can get to a place where you can take the wheels off on your car, you need to check them both, and you can do that visually. So do you two want to come in a bit closer? And go on, I can just show them how to check it, Matt, and then we'll show them how to get it off. So basically, the bits on here that actually run down end up being the brake pads. So this is a caliper, and it would be bolted on the car like that. And inside the caliper go the pads that fit in here. And the overview of how this whole system works is the discs go inside there, this one's a bit seized up, and then the pads squeeze against the discs, and that's what stops the car. Two bits that end up wearing out are the pads, which will run down eventually. These are designed, they're wear items, they'll run down to completely nothing and they'll end up worn out, and the discs themselves will run down as well and wear out. So there's two ways you can check it. You can either check it visually by looking in the back there to see where there's how much the pads have actually worn down, and you can check the disc by how much of a lip is actually on the disc, because as it wears out it runs into the side of the disc and it pulls it all out of shape, and the more out of shape it is and the more scored this is, the worse the braking will be. On the back, do you want to show us on the back, Matt? Yeah. I will check. So Matt's just going to show you how to check the back brakes. Firstly, it's got to get the drum off, and a great trick for getting it off is just tapping it with a hammer. You probably, unless you do that, won't get it off at all. Where are we going to find wear on the back, Matt?
So first of all, we should check the condition of the disc, right? Sorry, drum. As you can see, this one here, it's got a slight lip, so it's still okay to use.
So that'll get scored, won't it? A bit like the disc, and this will get really hard to remove. If yours is really hard work to take it off, it's probably because it's all scored and damaged.
Yeah, so that's the first thing we need to check. Then we have to check the condition of the shoes. So as you can see here, the shoes are not too bad, but they are incorrectly fitted. So this is a trailing shoe, and this is the leading shoe here. The leading shoe here should have a bigger gap here on the top. Right, so these ones are incorrectly fitted by the previous mechanic. So now, let me just grab the screwdriver. We need to check also cylinder. So what I do, trying to move the cylinder to check if the pistons are not seized. These ones look good. Another thing we check is if it leaks. So we need to pull the rubber and see if there's any fluid in there. These ones look good. So the only problem with this is that just the shoes are incorrectly fit. If we could grab a new set of shoes,
I've got some shoes here. Let's just show how we check them, and then we'll come back and show them how they can fit them the wrong way around.
So yeah, so as I said, we check the wheel cylinder, we check the shoes, and they're still in a good condition apart from the incorrectly fitted.
So I guess if you were just checking it, you'd give it a good clean up as well.
Yes, you need to clean everything up. It's good to strip everything and clean the adjuster here. They always seize up, so they don't adjust when they just wear out. Yeah, but if you clean it up and put it back properly, it should last long.
So just so you guys can see those bits, if you come over here to the bench, so the basic idea of how that works, and Matt was just explaining, you've got the shoes that are like that, which you could just see on the car, and then the drum was over the top. That was the cylinder that Matt was checking and peeling back on the outside. And as the cylinder pushes outwards, it makes the drums open up and get wider, and the friction, both brakes work by friction, means that stops the car by pushing against there. Now, like Matt said, all of that can seize up and go funny, but that's a quick overview on how to just check the brakes and the real basics on how they work. The second point that we made in the email was how to make sure that you actually end up stopping when you press the brakes, because the brakes on these cars can be pretty rubbish, even if all the parts are on there and been new. So one of the things, like Matt was just saying, is if the back brakes are fitted incorrectly. So do you want to just show Matt how so this is a car we just took out the yard. It's one that's we're not sure what we're going to do with it.
Set of new shoes. This is a trailing shoe, and this is the leading shoe. So as you can see, the gap on the top is bigger here than there. This is the correct way of fitting the shoes.
Yeah, so they'll go on either way round, but if they're the wrong way, it's not pushing on all of the discs, all of the drum, all the time. So what happens is it just doesn't work as efficiently.
It's grabbing quicker.
Yeah.
So it's like very likely that the car will fail the MOT, for example, because of the imbalanced brakes.
And the other thing that happens is that they end up with an imbalance, isn't it? So you press the brake. If any of you have ever found this on your car, you press the brake and the back wheels skid, but the car doesn't stop.
Yeah.
What causes that generally?
First thing, the shoes incorrectly fitted, or the adjusted incorrectly, or also the compensator valve could be faulty as well.
Yeah.
That's another thing that we could talk about later.
Yeah. So like Matt says, all of these little gubbins in here. I'm just going to see if I can grab a torch, because one of you guys just put in the comments there, it'd be a bit easier if we had a torch. Thanks for letting us know in the comments. I'm back with a torch. So yeah, Matt, these bits in here, isn't it? So what Matt was just talking about is inside here you've got a little piece that actually adjusts these. So you spin it with a screwdriver and it opens them up and down, and that's how you set them when you first put them on. But if all of this stuff seizes up, all of these little screws and fixings, it still doesn't work properly, does it? And it won't adjust, and again it won't work, and you won't get the balance.
Another thing that is worth checking is the condition of the handbrake cable. If the handbrake cable is seized, it all shows where the shoe is quicker. For example, the shoe doesn't go back, it stays, you know, open. So where's the shoe liner more quickly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, what can people do to extend the life, Matt? Should we start with the fronts, because the fronts particularly get seized up quite quick, don't they? Do you want to show these guys how to check the sliders?
Yes.
Come round the front, cameraman. So one of the most common things that happens on the front, so while Matt's undoing that, I'll just show you on this one that we had, is the caliper seizes up. So on the front it's what's called a floating caliper. So basically you press the brake and it squeezes it, but the caliper itself should also be able to move, and it moves through these bolts which have little sliders on the inside. But the idea is that slider, hence the name, slides backwards and forwards. But what happens is it goes rusty, like exactly as it has on this caliper, which is waiting for refurbishment, and then it stops working. So Matt, do you guys want to go in and look, and Matt will show you how you actually grease that part, because if it's not working you just wear out half the brakes, and this is one of the most common things that happens.
So the most common things is that rubber falling off, as you can see here on this one, and there's not enough grease, and actually the slider inside is well, sticky or seized. And the common issue is that people just grease up the bolts here, which actually doesn't do anything. Doesn't need any grease on it here. Most importantly is to put the grease on the slider here to clean up, clean the surface inside as well, and put in your nice copper grease. Make sure the rubbers are not split. These ones actually are good, so you can put them back on both sides, and that will definitely prolong the life of the pads.
So yeah, if that bit, when that seizes up, basically you're only getting 50% of the braking, because what's happening is on the caliper, instead of it working with a full pincer movement, it's only half of it pulling on the disc, and so one, the brakes aren't working, two, you wear half the pads out and you can't change out one pad at a time, so you end up with a system that's just really ineffective, will fail the MOT, will have more braking on one side of the car to the other side. And so this is a really quick procedure. I mean, you saw how Matt took everything, pull the mic out, you saw how Matt took everything apart. It really is a 10-minute job, so it's something you can do at home, or we can do for you here as part of our evaluation service. If you're thinking about restoring your car, we do all of this for free as part of the evaluation service if you're considering restoration, which is a no obligation service that we do. But also it is something you can do at home, as you've seen Matt just do it here. I mean, what tools did you need to get that far, Matt?
I just used the 14mm.
So you've got one 14mm spanner, you've got to get the wheel off, and that's about it. Do you just want to show them how you put the caliper back on? Because you have to just tap it, don't you, to get it back on so they can see.
Well, depends on really if you want to fit new pads. If you want to fit new pads and disc, you need to press the piston back into place, fully back in. For that I've got I've got big pliers for that. Actually for that job.
Guys, I'll answer your questions in a second. I'm just looking at them now.
Let's fit those rubbers back.
That's fine, Matt, don't worry about tightening it up. So guys, you can see it just slots back over, and Matt can do that with the original pads or with the new pads, and when he had that apart, the disc just slots on, and the new disc, the disc slots off and it slots back on. So if you were doing this type of thing on the drive, it'd probably take you an hour or two, but you can strip it down a little bit, have a look, and then if you decide to change it, you can change it. So the other thing that we wanted to show you, if we just bring this ramp down, is the other parts of the system that can actually fail, because there's some bits that fail. There's some bits that fail really commonly, not just the actual friction parts. So the bits we've looked at, we call those the friction parts because they're touching, and that's what stops the car. And the thing that pushes them, the things that makes them touch, is hydraulic fluid. And so this one's been just chopped off a car, but the fluid goes down here, you press the brake, it pumps the fluid, and then that squeezes against the disc. But that system is really high pressure and it has to be sealed. So the most common part that fails is the master cylinder. Matt, do you want to show us how would you check the master cylinder on this car? Because this is one you guys can do by just lifting the bonnet up.
First of all, and the most obvious problem is we need to check the fluid level. So if you notice that, for example, there's no fluid at all,
Yeah.
and it's very wet underneath between the master cylinder and servo, it means that the master cylinder is leaking.
Yeah. So by that, you would see fluid at the back. Let me get the torch. You'd see fluid at the back of the cylinder. Cheers. So this is the cylinder bolted onto there, and if you can see fluid down the back and it's all rusty on the back of this big cone shaped piece, it means fluid's coming out. Or if you can see it running out of these gaps around here. Also, you've got a maximum and minimum on the side of the pot there, so it should be full. If it's going down or the light's coming on inside the car, you know that it's because you're running out of fluid. Once you run out of fluid, you've only got air in the system, and when you've got air in the system, it's not going to stop. So it's important to keep an eye on that. I mean, you can change it for either a reconditioned one we sell or brand new ones, but they're important to keep an eye on. And again, they're MOT failure because they're highly safety sensitive. They fail quite a lot, don't they?
Yeah, they
just
do.
through age, because they've got this whole system's got rubber parts inside it, and like everything that I always talk about on the Figaros, it's nearly always some rubber part somewhere that starts to fail. All of these rubbers, it's all to do with rubber bits that just aren't designed to last 30 years. So again, the rubber seals inside that tend to fail. It also comes into play when you talk about the brake hoses. So this is an original brake hose on a caliper. It's been cut off the car and they're rubber. So two things with these: one is they start to swell up, and two, they get all brittle like this one is, and they don't work very well, and then they can leak, and you can see how rusty it is around the joint there. So we developed an upgraded one which is made from stainless steel. So two things with this: one, it's stainless steel, so it doesn't end up it doesn't end up going rusty and the fixings coming off the end, but also it doesn't swell when you press the brake. With this, when you really stamp on the brake, it's going to expand a little bit because it's rubber, and you're going to lose some of your braking capacity. But with these, they're much more efficient. It was mostly sort of performance cars that use stainless steel hoses to start with, and so we're really pleased with those as an upgrade. Guys, just while we're moving, I'll answer a couple of questions because I know loads of you guys have shared some. So, do you recommend, Carter, thanks for asking, do you recommend turning the front brake discs when you change them from brake pads? So yeah, we would change both at the same time. You can change pads, but normally the disc is so scored that you'll need to change it as well, and you definitely don't want to change discs and not change pads. Is that, you'd agree with that, Matt? We normally change both though. In the long run it's cheaper. Rona says she doesn't have a Figaro but hopes to get one soon. Give us a call, Rona, we can help you with that, definitely. Carter-Kansas. Okay, I think that's the questions. Guys, if you've got any other questions, post them in the comments.
I've got one on there.
Oh yeah, cool. What is it?
So Cadillac car guy.
Hello, Cadillac car guy. Good name.
He has he's said that he's always been taught not to hang the caliper by the hose. Is this one so light that it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't want to leave it hanging there for ages, and ideally, yeah, you don't want to hang it by the hose because you'll stretch it out and damage it. So yeah, try not to do that too much.
Another one. How about silicone brake fluid?
We don't use that actually. We just use the.
You can't use the silicone brake fluid on these brakes. They're only designed for dot 3 or dot 4. So the silicone brake fluid will basically deteriorate all the rubbers in the system. So it's not designed for that.
Cool. Right, what bits are we on to next? So, if you get to the point where your brakes are completely failing, I'll put that over there so you don't get any feedback, you can rebuild this caliper. So, as Matt was showing you on the car, you've got these little pieces with the sliders in, and then you can completely rebuild it. So we do a kit to rebuild it. So in there you'll get new sliders, because like these parts in here, I mean the slider, oh no, it's still moving in this one actually. So you can either take this part out and grease it all if it's good enough, like this one, or you can completely change it. Then you get new rubbers to change it as well, and all the other pieces to rebuild that sliding part of the caliper. At the same time, you can change the piston as well, which is this part, and you'd only probably do this if your brakes are actually failing. But the piston is the part that fits into there and is actually moving backwards and forwards and pushing the brake caliper, pushing the brake pad in and out against the disc. So you can completely recondition that bit. The back shoes, if you change those, you can also put a new kit on. So the pieces that Matt showed us when we were looking at the back of the car that were all seized up, the adjusters and all the springs, they can all be changed as well, so you can refit those parts. It's a bit of a task, isn't it, Matt, to put it all together? That's the only thing.
It is a little bit fiddly, yes. But
So what's your best tip on how to do it?
a lot of patience, I would say.
And don't take two sides apart at the same time is a good one, isn't
I'd
it?
rather strip just one side to
Yeah.
see the other one.
I don't think I could do it without leaving one on the car, so I
Yeah.
could remember and match it up. So it's just fiddly, isn't it?
Yeah.
You build them up, partly build them up off the car with all the new springs and bits like that on them, and then you slot the whole lot back onto the car and then stretch it back over. But it does make a difference, because when the back brakes aren't working, I think these are 60-40, aren't they?
I think so, yeah.
So you've got like 60% of your braking is on the front when you press the brakes and 40% on the back. And as soon as one of these bits starts to fail, that doesn't work properly. You've also got a valve that balances that, haven't we,
Yes.
as well? Did you want to just point out where that is,
Yeah.
and I'll hold the torch?
Yes.
So if you were to do all of those bits and you still found that you're sort of pressing the brake and the back wheels are skidding, the fronts are doing nothing, especially at the moment, any of you guys that are in the UK, and actually lots of bits of the States at the moment as well, I know are full of snow, and if you can see this,
It's located
down there where
down there,
Matt's
here.
hand is, can you get your finger on it?
Yeah,
Matt?
that's the
This
one here.
little device here,
With 6 pipes attached.
6 brake pipes, so you'll know it's that because it's got 6 brake pipes coming off it. If you've got any leaking from there,
You need to replace it.
you need to replace it, and that is that's the part that actually balances front to back. So when you put your foot on the brake, it lets slightly more power go, slightly more pressure to the front than it does to the back, because it's not equal braking. Otherwise, it would just skid around. And that's the last piece really. The other bit you've got on the brakes is just the handbrake cables as well, isn't it? Which can seize up.
Yes.
Generally, the best way to identify that is when you pull the brake up, instead of having that springy feel to it.
You can just put it back and just.
Yeah, it will just feel like there's nothing there on the brakes, and that means your cables are seized up. So again, your brakes are going to be not working so well. Right, let's see if we've got any other questions. to do with brakes. AW Mitchell says, what's up? Paul says, please mention how often every car should have the brake fluid flushed and replenished. How often do we do it, Matt? The way we do it is explain to them about the fluid water ingress check we do.
Okay, so many times I've noticed the rubber seal here on the cup is perished and it's not sealing up the reservoir properly. And there's also a moisture going into the brake fluid. So I would recommend replacing brake fluid every 3 years, because most of the cars we check, the brake fluid contains more than 4% of water and it needs to be replaced.
Yeah, so Matt's saying is it's the water ingress, so we have a little tool that we dip in it that actually checks that. Yeah. Hopefully that helps, Paul. You can buy those on anywhere, any website, to find out what's what. If you want to see, if you want to buy one of those, it's like a little pen, and you just dip it in the top, and the light flashes to tell you if it's got too much water in. Mark says, remember to bed the brakes in. Mark, that's very true. So if you do change those front brake pads or the discs, just take a little bit of time to drive slowly to start with, because it will slowly bed into those. So you need to just be a bit careful. If we do the brakes, we'll always run it afterwards to make sure. Rachel J. Berry says, how cute is that face? And then ... the car face. Yeah, thought that was going to be about me, so...
What was it about me?
Yeah, I know. Chris Knight, hi Chris, how you doing, mate? Says, any easy way to lubricate the handbrake cable? I don't think there is there? You can buy cable lubrication devices, those little things that screw onto the cable.
If it's not completely seized, you can try to, well, if it's just a little bit sticky, you can try to put some WD-40 in it, or better, I would use maybe something like duck oil, which it doesn't dry up.
A lot of the things on the Figaro are when the car's been sat around. So the brakes seizing up, for example. Just hold it for now. That's fine. We're not far off anyway. The cameraman's a bit drunk, I think. So the car being sat for a long time, that's what I was going to say, I got distracted. So a lot of these things are from it being sat around, and this time of year, if you're just getting the car out of the garage, it's likely that the brakes are going to be a bit seized up and that they probably won't free off. If you drive it up the road, they might free off enough to drive it to the garage, but they're probably not going to completely free off. They're going to need greasing up. So if you're just bringing your car out and it's been sat for a few months, or you've been in lockdown or whatever, it's definitely worth looking at those, because even though you might get it going again and you can drive up the road, it's probably going to wear them out and it's going to cost more in the long run anyway. One more question from Lolo. Servicing garage noted on an older MOT test that the rear drums had corrosion, but the last passed fine. Is there any benefit to changing corroded drums? Well, a bit like Matt said, if the rear brakes, as they were on this car, get full of all that road dirt, which they will generate, if these back brakes don't ever get cleaned up, there's not really anywhere for all that dust to escape. And because, like I said, these are all friction brakes, so as that starts to wear down, it's wearing all that material off of the back of here, and it will fill up inside the drum, fill up all these springs and these little fixings, and then it stops working. So you do need to clean them out. You can't just, it's probably not going to last the whole life of the shoe without being completely cleaned out. Hopefully that helps. Glenn, hello, how are you, Glenn? Considering doing some maintenance. There's some grievance. Oh, Glenn, that was nice of you to say. Yes, good point as well, Glenn. We do. We sell all of these bits in kits or individually. So if you want a full brake kit, you can do that. And if you just want one part of it, you can do that. And if you want some advice on it, you can do that too. Mark Richards says buy a big can of brake cleaner. Yeah, that's very true. Definitely. You can clean this with anything that you want, but brake cleaner is a specific cleaner that's designed, funnily enough, to clean brakes, and you would use a load of it while you do it, so that really helps. I think, guys, that answers all your questions. There's just one more point I want to make. Often people ring us up and say, can I fit micro drums or can I fit micro discs on the car? Are they the same as the micro? And they are definitely not the same as the micro. The way to tell if your car's been fitted with micro parts, this is the front disc. Because it gets hot, because of the weight of the car, it's ventilated. So you can see it's like two pieces sandwiched together with all these little slots. The air goes through there and it cools down the disc, because when the disc is hot, it's cold, it doesn't work as well. So you can't fit micro discs on the car. If you've got discs that haven't got the vent, then you have got micro discs on your car. No, we haven't got any, or I'd show you, but they wouldn't be as efficient. Millie says hello, Toby, Dolly here. Dolly, hello, lovely to see you, hope you're well in Ireland. Mark says the dream team, top lads. Mark is our colleague who is looking after his daughter at the moment. Mark, we miss you. Mark and Matt work together. Where am I? Carter, I lost connection and missed your answer about turning the front rotors. Do you recommend turning them if no vibration? So if you mean turning them, I don't know what you mean. If you mean
so
swapping sides.
No. Turning them means to grind them if they are wobbly.
Like on a lathe, turning them.
Yeah,
Right. I don't know if they're expensive enough to do it. Like we've done it. We do it on cars. If we had a car that was the discs are 200 or 300 quid each, then it's worth spending 30 quid a disc to turn them. So what Carter means by that is once these get scored, can you grind them back down again and make them flat? Because when they're scored, you haven't got a good surface, you haven't got a good friction surface between the pad and the disc, and then the brake isn't working fully. So I would say that it wouldn't hurt to do it, but it's not really economically sound, is it?
I think they're cheap enough and it's not worth the hassle.
Yeah, exactly. And they're never quite as good when they're ground down either. Oh yeah, and A.W. Mitchell says the same thing, just buy new ones. They are cheap. Oh, cool. One more question.
One from Tom Brake.
Tom, how are you, mate? Nice to see you.
Are the pads the same? Isn't the micro?
Yeah, the pads are the same, but the discs are definitely different. There's a few bits that cross over, but it's like all of it. It's like what we talked about the engine last week. You've got a few bits that are micro, but not all of them. So you've got to be careful that you get the right bits. I was going to answer a question from last week. One of you asked what was the chicken sign on the wall, and he took the chicken sign down, but it's because my colleague always makes chicken noises. Ant, are you in there? He's gone. I was going to get him to make the chicken noise for you, especially next time. So yeah, watch out, because next time there's a chicken noise coming. Guys, do you have any more questions for us? It's lovely to see you all on this cold day. Hopefully it's a little bit warmer wherever you are. If you've got any more questions, let us know now. Glenn kindly put a link in the comments. If any of you do need any braking things, have a look, and have a look on our new website, because it's all laid out nicely. Ranulph, who is posing as cameraman today, has redone all the photography, so they all look really good. Any other questions? A.W. Mitchell says parking brake adjustment. I think we covered it, but we'll just quickly show you again before we go. Okay, cool. Okay, we've got two adjustments we can show you before we go. If you do the back,
First you do the shoes and then you have to adjust the...
yeah, if you do the toothed wheel and then you can lift the car up higher to show underneath. A.W. Mitchell says here's a frozen up. While he's coming up, Chris says roof drain point, watch video last week. After big site there was a rubber bush that the pump fits into in the sill of the pipe shrink that pulls the rubber bush. Yeah, there is an original seal in there, but that's the way that we do it, Chris. We run it out through here because we just find it's much neater, and we don't want to see it going into the sill anyway, especially after we put new ones on, so that's why we do it that way. We found that it works the best. Mark says something that I won't read out. Okay, where are we starting? With the cable underneath?
Yes.
So this is the handbrake cable, guys. So it's going from the floor, from the bottom of the cable, here,
That's the main cable
all
here.
the way, and then it splits.
That's offside handbrake cable here, going to the offside rear wheel, and the other one here, near side rear wheel. And the adjustments here. So all you have to do is just to loosen this nut here, and spin the bracket.
If the cable has frozen up on yours, which I know you just said, you're probably going to just chuck it away and put another one on. It's not really worth it.
You can also check the condition of the. You can actually see the cable is moving and going back. If you can hear the brake squeaking, it means the handbrake cable is completely fine. You can check the other side. You can also check if you pull the cable, the wheel should stop. It does, so it works fine. So what you need to do, once you adjusted the shoes, if you're changing them, you need to release this nut here, tighten it up to make sure it's not too tight. You don't want to really like wheels block. You just need to have it like this here, slight play, and then you have to tighten up the nut back. So what you need to do, what you need to have is just like 3 or 4 clicks of the handbrake cable.
When we do it, one of the ways we test it, isn't it, Matt, is when we put the drum on. We put the drum on, mock it up with the wheel on it, give it a spin, and you want it to have a decent amount of resistance so that it's not, you know, you don't want it to be free spinning, but you also want to be able to turn the wheel. You don't want to put it on and you can't move it at all, but it's sort of a bit of a suck it and see. You put it on, play with it a bit, see what it's like, don't you? And then you can do some fine adjustment there, right?
Well, that's the adjustment first we need to do. It's this one here. This is the last one.
Okay.
So the adjustment here, makes you lower the car. Sorry. On the back of the hub, you've got the self-adjuster here, and you can use the screwdriver to adjust it. You can actually hear it clicking. So what it does is just expands the pads. Sorry, the shoes.
So what's happening there, guys, if you just look at this bench, as Matt's adjusting that, the shoes are just very slightly opening up, so that's a manual adjustment, and it'll just get it closer, so that when you pull the handbrake you get the right amount of clicks, and when you press the brake it's near the top of the pedal instead of being right down on the floor. And they're the 2 adjustments. Right, let me check if there's any more last comments, and then if not we're going to go. AW Mitchell says cool, I hope that helped you. That's cool doing it manually, says Rachel. Maggie Gotts, hello, nice to see you. Excellent, guys. Right, we are going to get on. Suggest anything if there's any other bits you'd like to know. Oh, one more question.
Just one more on
from
the drain.
Instagram.
The drain tubes again. Do you have to drill both sides?
Yeah.
On the sills?
Yeah. Yeah, you do need to drill both sides. If you need to know any more, Carter says thanks, Toby. Carter, thanks. Thanks for asking all your questions. It makes it easier for us when we know what you guys need to know. And do add any comments on other bits you need to know. Where's the guy with the blue hands from? He's Polish, but they're not really blue hands. They're actually gloves.
Not anymore.
Right, guys, that's it. Peace and love to all of you. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. In the comments, stick anything you want to know about in the future. It'll give us an idea of what we can do, because during this lockdown we will keep trying to share our knowledge with you. Have a lovely day and stay warm from me and Matt and Chris and Ranulph. Bye.